Hey guys, so I haven't done this in a really long time, but I have felt like I should come back on here and talk to you about my journey with OCD, how I became diagnosed, how like what I'm doing about it and what drives my OCD. I figured I would talk to you guys about it right after a therapy session because it's a lot easier and it's fresh, and when I go to therapy, like, I'm in it and I'm living in my OCD, so I don't have to bring it up and then just pretty much ruin my whole day. So I don't really know how or when it started. Like, now that I know what I have, it's easy to know that it's easy to see the signs that I have had it for years, years and years. Like, I was 3 years old when I went through an adoption. My biological father left, and before that, though, he was not to call him out because he certainly knows who I am, but he was abusive towards my mom, and he had a substance abuse problem, so things in my first 3 years of life were not easy. My mom was essentially a single mom who would, be abused by the person who was my dad at the time. But anyway, being exposed to that much trauma before even knowing what the real world is like, or what average or what is expected out of relationships, had a longer lasting effect than I ever wanted it to, or I ever thought it was capable of having. To be honest, I didn't think that I didn't want to believe that I had let him have that much of an influence on my life. So I guess that's when everything started about me being afraid that everyone's going to leave. I'm terrified that people are going to leave me if I'm not perfect. So I spend a lot of my time making sure that I am perfect. I am not appearance-wise, I don't take a lot of time to do my makeup and stuff like that. It's more about me as a human being. I try to be everyone's, when I'm somebody's friend, I want to be their best friend, and I want to be there for them, and I exhaust myself in trying to be perfect. I know everyone wants to be the perfect mom, but it's actually making me sick. I constantly am doing certain checks, and I realized a couple months ago that everything in my life needed control. So I mentioned it to my sister, and there's gonna have to be a lot of these videos because this is such an intricate disease and mental illness. It literally seeps into every single part of my being. And part of managing my OCD is making me very afraid that I'm gonna lose who I am as a person, and that everyone who knows me, who knows this quirky and emotional and passionate, is a nice way of explaining how I am, person, are going to not love me anymore. So it's I'm afraid to live without it in a way. So essentially I live my life in fear. And everything about my day and about who I am as a person, which I didn't realize I was doing until my doctor told me about how my life is one big compulsion. So I navigate and I plan, and I call myself spontaneous, but I am the least spontaneous because I've already talked myself into these plans and into doing these things before it happens, and then I'm oh, I'm spontaneous, but I'm not at all. You can't spring anything on me because then I'm in full-blown meltdown, because so yeah, I guess. And I'm just afraid that one day my family is gonna be you're too much. And this is too much. We don't want to deal with this anymore. Because that's what I was first introduced to, is that when you're too much work, that I'm not worth sticking around for. And I know that's like kind of whatever, sob story. Everyone has a story, but that's kind of how mine started. So a few months ago, so I was diagnosed with anxiety in 2014. I went to the hospital on April 1st. I went to the hospital because I was self-harming and I couldn't stop, no matter how much I wanted to. The pressure was so strong. I just wanted to keep releasing the pain. So I ended up in the hospital, and that's what I said. I said, I don't want to die. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to die. I'm terrified of death. Like, it's the scariest thing in the whole world. And I know that everyone has a fear, like, should have a fear of death, but like, it's debilitating. My whole life revolves around not allowing anyone to die. Like, or when someone leaves, I feel like that is the last time I will ever see them. Every single time. Every time somebody says goodbye to me, I go through they're gonna die. And like, I can't get past it. I'm obsessed. I overly obsess about death. And because it's the ultimate leaving. That's it. You're gone. So I never wanted to leave. I never wanted to die. I just wanted to not feel hurt anymore. I didn't want to feel hurt anymore. I didn't want to feel anything anymore, because I feel everything so strongly, because everything is fueled by anxiety. I do nothing out of normal behavior. I literally do everything out of fear, and it sucks, and it's exhausting. And it's exhausting when you start your day at your emotions are already like, I don't know, on high. Like, that's how I start, is like everything is like up here, and then so there's only up from there. So I only have like 2 ranges of emotions. Either I'm losing my shit, or I'm like super happy and having the best time of my life. There's no in between. Like, and yeah, I don't live in the in between. But now that I'm going to therapy, I'm starting to realize what it's like to live in the in between, and it's kind of nice. So how we got to this diagnosis was a few months ago after my wedding. October was when we got married, and then I had the ultimate like family love hangover that you could have after my wedding. We left our wedding, and everyone went back home, went back to the provinces that they live in, did all those things, and I was left by myself. Jordan, anyway, Jordan went away to work for 9 weeks. He was home for 6 days between our wedding and Christmas. So October 14th and Christmas, he was home for like 6 days. And that's kind of when I lost, there's no other way of saying it, but I lost my mind. I started to have control over everything in my life. So I had to, so we moved into a house, and we had yet to ever live in a house with Jax. Like, we've always lived in apartments, and I became completely convinced that someone was going to break into our house and take her away from me, because I wasn't enough, or I wasn't a good enough mom, or people are watching me and watching to see when I was gonna make the next mistake as a mom, and when I was going to, when they could just, I don't know who I thought they were. Like, it's not schizophrenia. It's literally my brain is obsessed with thinking about things that are gonna hurt me. So I started checking a lot, and I've always checked, and I've always done things that I just thought were just kind of normal, but like my checking wasn't normal. Like, I would check the locks periodically throughout the night, like I would get up off the couch and go and do the whole walkthrough. Before I would open her door to check on her to make sure she's still breathing, I would have a panic attack because in my head she was already dead. By the time I got to her crib, I had her funeral planned. And it sounds so ridiculous and so morbid and so, but it was my brain trying to be in a fight or flight and like trying to give me enough, I don't know, adrenaline to fight it if that's what was on the other side, because that's what I had convinced myself. So started controlling that, and then I didn't feel like I was good enough, and I started controlling what I ate, and I was losing weight rapidly. So come January, after Christmas holidays, Jordan went back to work, everyone went back to doing their own thing, and I went back to being neurotic. So yeah, I stopped eating. I was like really short-tempered, really. And one day my sister called me and I was like, how is it that I can have anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder? I was like, how fucked up can you be, is essentially what I said. And my sister said, well, did you ever stop to think that maybe you don't have anxiety? And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, it doesn't seem like you have anxiety. It seems like you have control issues, like you want to control everything. And that was the first time in my life that anyone had brought that to my attention, and that it was brought to my attention in such a positive way and such a calm manner that I actually was like, huh, yeah, maybe I do want to have control over everything. Like serious control over everything everyone does, everything everyone eats in my family. Everything needs to be the way that I think it is, and it's not like it's not because I'm strict or anything. It's literally because my brain says if they don't act or do these certain things, or if we don't do this on this day that you have planned, we're gonna get into a car accident, we're gonna die. You need to do these things the same way every time, because if not, if you deviate, it's like the butterfly effect. I'm terrified of that. If I deviate from the plan, then we're gonna die, or we're gonna get cancer, or like, how is it that I have anxiety, depression, hypochondria, and an eating disorder? And that's when Sam was like, maybe you have control issues. Do you think maybe you have OCD? Because like you have compulsions and you have control, and that's when you start to like lose your mind. And whoever's watching this video and doesn't, and like, I don't say these in like, you're losing your mind, you're crazy, like that is just the way that I talk about my OCD. Like, I don't believe that we're losing our minds. I think that's just how I describe it. So I hope that no one's taking offense. It's just like when I lose my mind, it's like a full-blown OCD attack. So yeah, and going to therapy has helped me a lot. And one of the things I learned in therapy this morning is that you're allowed to feel. You are allowed to feel all the feelings that you want and that you're actually feeling, and to let yourself feel those things. So the other day, this is kind of how it all started. Just to be completely open and like just honest with you guys, like I lost my shit on Jax the other day. I lost it. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Like, I didn't yell at her, I didn't hurt her, I didn't anything like that, but I was like holding this, we were in the car, I pulled over on the side of the road and I held the steering wheel and I screamed at the top of my lungs, like so loud. I just wanted all the noise and everything to stop. And that's what I yelled, was just stop. And I was scared of myself. So like, I can only imagine how Jax was feeling. She was sitting right in her car seat and I was right here. And that guilt ate me up for days. And I have not been that low since April 1st of 2014. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get through this one. So I called my mom, I called my husband, I called everyone, and I was screaming for help. I just wanted help. And And since everyone lives away and works away, I had to help myself in that instance, and I just practiced my breath and breathed in deep and apologized to my kid and went about my day. But it took everything in me not to drive to the hospital that day because I didn't trust myself to be around myself. I felt terrible. I was the worst mom in the world on Saturday. So that's brought me here, and to the point where my doctor is telling me that it's okay to feel. I had been 3 weeks without a single break from Jax. I, for some reason, don't get babysitters, and I don't ask for help until I'm in that state where I'm screaming in desperation for help and no one could help me. So today I asked my therapist how to deal with those emotions, and he said when you feel those emotions, feel them and allow them to be. So if I was really that upset with Jax, what I should do is feel that emotion, or not even, it's all the underlying things. It wasn't even really Jax, it was all the pressure and all the things that my brain is telling me to constantly be doing that I couldn't take anymore. So what I have to do now is journal it, or scream into a pillow, or like cry or punch or listen to really angry music. If I want to feel angry, I have to fully feel angry. And if I want to feel sad, then I'm allowed to feel fully sad, like fully feel those emotions, because if not, you really do take them on and you carry them with you, and they seep into like so many parts of your life that are not deserving of those freakouts. So I guess living with OCD today is allowing myself to feel, and stay latched for living with OCD the next time.